for commentation behind, or for commentating for this video. So I went ahead and put together my first mock draft for the NFL draft that is next week. This is why. There is talk that Philadelphia is going to be trying to move up pretty hard. And I want to get a mock draft out there for you guys before that happens, so that if Philly does move up, I can switch it and give you a second one. So we're going to get 4 games in. I'm going to try to do 4 games and get the draft in the same amount of time. I'm going to give you explanations to my picks, and in some scenarios maybe offer the alternate, but I don't really think that's necessary, because I think I did a pretty sound process. Well, I didn't get picked for this game either, so we're gonna have a little bit more time. So I'm gonna advance. All right, first pick, the Rams. The Rams moved up to get a quarterback. That's a guarantee. So it's Goff or Wentz at this point, and Goff is the answer. They're not going to take a AA quarterback over a national ranked or nationally rankable team such as Cal. So without question, the answer is Goff. Why is Wentz coming in this week to do interviews? Because as all of the experts have said, if Goff was to get hurt during one of these walkthroughs or whatever, or gets hurt before the draft, they got to make a better decision, because they got to have a quarterback going into the season ready to go, not a quarterback hurt. So that's why they're bringing both quarterbacks in this week. But Goff at number 1 is the pick. Now, number 2. Here already, this is where it's going to get a little wacky. Cleveland right now is actively shopping this pick. But, as I said in my previous video, for my next Monday's draft, I will have them as if it was the true draft. As if Cleveland, if they could pull it off, was going to pull it off. I'm not, but as right now, they're stand-packed. They're going to take the offensive tackle Tunson from Ole Miss, and here's why. They're going to move Tunson to right tackle while Joe Thomas is still on the roster, and they're going to tell RG3, this is the best tackle combination we can offer you to succeed. And if you can't succeed, given your contract, we can walk away from you after year 1, basically, is what they're saying. Plus, Joe Thomas is getting older, so they could have Tunson play on the right side until Joe Thomas either retires or they move on from him, depending on how the season goes. But Tunson is the pick at number 2 for Cleveland at this point. Pick number 3, San Diego is looking for some pass rushers, some defensive line help, and at the moment, the top guy as far as on the line goes is DeForest Buckner. So DeForest Buckner goes 3, the defensive lineman from Oregon. This is where it already starts getting a little shaky for me, because if they're looking to replace Eric Weddle in their defense, they go Jalen Ramsey, but I don't see them trying to replace him. I think this is going to be an ego thing. They're not going to draft his replacement. They're going to find a player to put in his position and go, this is how easy it was to replace you. So with the 3rd pick, San Diego will take DeForest Buckner. And now, again, may not be the pick that everyone else is expecting, but I suspect that they will try to take the best talented down lineman. And no, the answer is not Joey Bosa. He is not the most talented lineman, and we'll get to that later. Dallas is going to break the box here a little bit. Running backs have been kind of looked over recently. I have 2 going in the first round, because their talents are good enough to make them impact players immediately, and the number 1 running back on the board is Ezekiel Elliott, and he's going to Dallas. They had great success with DeMarco Murray. Elliott's a little bit more versatile than Murray is, and I've heard comparisons to his abilities as Arian Foster when it comes to being able to catch the ball. That may not be as accurate as the people saying it are. I don't remember exactly who said it, and my apologies to them because they are making an opinion statement, but I disagree with it. So Ezekiel, it goes 4. So Dallas and San Diego slip over the best player in the draft, and Jalen Ramsey. But Jacksonville doesn't. Jacksonville, they want to get their defense hard. They want to be tough. They have the young quarterback. They've got the young receiving core. They got the young running backs. They're ready to finally make Jacksonville relevant again. It's been a while, and they're going to get Jalen Ramsey, and they're going to solidify position on defense. Now, whether they decide he's a corner or safety is up to them, but this is a guy that could ultimately hybrid the position, where he is not really a corner or a safety. He is a defensive backfielder. Best player in the draft, in my opinion. So he goes 5. He goes 5 to Jacksonville. Baltimore sitting there with probably the biggest grin on their face, and not because Joey Bosa's on the board, because Joey Bosa is not going to them either. They're happy because Ronnie Stanley's still on the board, offensive tackle Notre Dame, and they're going to want to solidify their offensive line, try to improve on the run game, try to give Flacco a little bit more time in the pass game. And Stanley's still available. He's in most drafts. He's there still, anyways. But Baltimore isn't going to move at this point. I don't see them having to move unless they think that Coughlin is the better prospect and they can go back in the draft and get him. Then they move. But who's biting to get up that far? I don't know. Now, at this point in the draft, everyone's going, "Where is Miles Jack?" Well, here's the thing. Reports are out that his knee is shot. He sent his agent sent out a video saying, hey, here's him training on it. Guess what? That video doesn't say anything about his knee being good. All it says is, here, my guy can do his thing right now. Well, that's great. He goes into week 1 and blows out his knee and can't play anymore. Now he slides. He's the number 2 rated player on NFL.com. And on my board, he is a Philadelphia Eagle. Philly is going to take a chance on a linebacker. They got to take a chance on a player here, and they're not going after. They're not going after. Oh crap! Whoa! I screwed up. Let's back up one. San Fran. I miss San Fran. Sorry about that. San Fran has Colin Kaepernick on the team still. I don't think post-draft that will be the case. They're going to draft Carson Wentz, the second quarterback off the board, and the second quarterback and the only quarterback you'll see in my mock draft in the first round. So Carson Wentz is going to San Fran. Yeah. And then Miles Jack is going to Philly. NFL, like I said, NFL.com has him ranked very high. Teams have made note that he is an outstanding athlete, but the knee is a concern. And as you're going to see later in the first round, by the lack of names, the concerns are going to keep guys off the first round board for me, or drop them immensely. Mack could have went as high as 2 to Cleveland. I think the injury scares a bunch of teams. Well, not a bunch of teams, but six teams or so. Okay, so now we're on Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, they're looking for secondary help. They're going to their board. They're looking at the second best corner, and they see Vernon Hargreaves from Florida, and they're like, okay, well, second best corner. They might have him marked as 1 because they might consider Ramsey to be a safety. So on their board, he could be the best corner available, and they say, okay, best corner available, that's ours. And Vernon ends up as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Doesn't have to go far from Florida. We get our first receiver off the board with the Giants because they're gonna go after Treadwell. That's basically been a lock for 2 months now. They want to put someone on the other side of Odell Beckham. Treadwell's got the skills. Lions fans will be sad to know that I don't think it's worth the pick at 16 or at 10. I think he's He's a good receiver, but as you'll probably notice from my draft, I don't value receivers and running backs as much as I do interior players. So you'll see that trend. Chicago. Here's the guy. This is an interesting pick because Joey Bosa is on the board, and they're going to take him. They're looking at him going, everyone else is a fool because this kid is the best athlete on the board. No, he's not. He's the most mediocre, and he'll be the most mediocre NFL defensive lineman in the NFL. He's boring. Going from college to the pros is a huge jump, and everyone is going to be able to see that he was a good player playing against average players. And when he comes up against great players, he's going to look bad. I would love to see him go up against Tunson in the pros and just watch as Chicago's fans start to cry because he's not that talented. He is talented. Understand that this conversation is with the preface that all these young men are being drafted to the pros, so they are talented enough to be drafted to the pros. I'm not saying that I could walk out there and beat him. I'm saying that against the other people that are going to be in the league, he is going to be an average player. But it fills a need for the Bears in pass rush. He has pedigree that people like. People don't like to. That's exactly why we're in the same position we were for the first overall pick. It's the pedigree. Wentz has probably got a better long-term or a higher ceiling, even though I don't like using the word ceiling. But, Goff's got the pedigree, so Goff's going first. Bosa is the same way. There's more talented defensive linemen that are at smaller schools. But even I, with my cynical mind, cannot overlook the fact that it's Bosa here. Okay, New Orleans. New Orleans is interesting because I had them going for an Ohio State guy. I had them taking Darren Lee probably an hour before I decided to make this video. Then I switched it. Leonard Floyd, Georgia, outside linebacker, is going to New Orleans. Why? They need linebacker help. They're looking... Floyd fills a possible multi-position as a hybrid player if they can get him to put his hand down and play end. 6'6", good size, can play end, can play linebacker. Interesting pick for New Orleans given what their needs. I don't know if maybe it's just not another linebacker that should be in this position, but Floyd to me makes sense. Miami's up. Miami needs to protect their young quarterback. They're going to go offensive lineman. Jake Coughlin's on the board. It's a match made in heaven. Everyone celebrates. Jake Coughlin is Miami's new offensive tackle. He starts day one. If he starts at right tackle, it makes more sense. I think Tunson's the only true left tackle in this draft, but a lot of teams are going to probably push their luck on Stanley and Tunson. I don't know. We'll see. They could prove me wrong. Oakland's looking for a captain in the middle of the field for defense. Go to pair alongside Mack. Ragland's on the board from Alabama. It seems like everyone's getting the match made in heaven that they want at this point. Reggie Ragland is going to Oakland. He's a sound inside linebacker. It's going to fill a need hole for them unless they want to play more exotic defenses, which why would you at this point? You got one of the most dynamic pass rushers. You want to have a field general that's not going to, that can do what he's got to do. So Ragland to Oakland. We haven't talked. We did talk about Joey Bosa being overhyped, and here's the guy that's one of the guys that's going to outshine him next year. Tennessee's going to get Shaq Lawson. Lawson obviously was his name was huge going into the college season. Kind of dropped off. He's got talent. He's skilled. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he is the first defensive end off the board and people passed on Bosa. But I just don't think NFL teams are going to be able to get away from the fact that Bosa played for Ohio State and Lawson played for Clemson, even though they're both top tier schools. I think Bosa's Ohio State pedigree is going to lead him to being picked, even though he's less of a talent than Lawson, in my opinion. So he goes to Tennessee. Tennessee gets another pass rusher. At this point, pass rushing is what they need. One way to make a quarterback look good is to not have to have him on the field as much. Or put him in positions where it's not that far for them to score. And pass rushers like Jack Lawson do that for you. My Detroit Lions. Man. Oh, man. They're not taking a defensive tackle. In this mock draft, they didn't move up to get Jalen Ramsey. I had my first draft of this mock draft had them moving up to get Jalen Ramsey, forfeiting 2 first-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, a 5th-round pick, and I think a 2nd-round pick next year, so that they could get Jalen Ramsey. Because in my mind, he's the best player in the draft, and it fills a huge position of need for Detroit. They didn't get that chance. But they do need a linebacker. Levy's amazing. Big fan of Levy. I like Whitehead. Tulloch's gone. Inside linebacker. Which, yeah. Do you need an inside linebacker in first round when Ragland's off the board already? No. So they go Jalen Smith, Notre Dame. I don't want that to be the case. I'm hoping that my draft on my mock on Monday has something different being able to be put there because they made a move. But maybe they'll surprise me draft day, I guess. So yeah, Jalen Smith, Notre Dame, Detroit. Now we're at Hotlanta. Ooh, Hotlanta. Taking a position or taking the player that in most mocks I've seen has been a position that Detroit's been drafting at heavily, defensive tackle. And they take Sheldon Rankins from Louisville. I'm probably going to get flack because how does he make it this far down the draft? Well, realistically, he's a defensive tackle, and it's a deep group, and it's so deep that I don't think teams are going to be jumping in early for it. I think teams are going to be realistically being like, oh, you can hold off until the 2nd and 3rd rounds to fill these positions because there's so much talent inside. Buckner is a different kind of animal in comparison, but Rankins is still a great player. He's still first-round material. And again, another player that if he was picked earlier, if he, I don't know, if Joey Bosa somehow didn't get picked by Chicago and Rankins did, I wouldn't be shocked. Indianapolis, wow, surprise here. I think it's a surprise. Indianapolis is in a weird position because if they value Jalen Ramsey at the cornerback position, they're drafting the 3rd cornerback available, and if they value him as a safety, they're drafting the 3rd or the 2nd cornerback available. And to them, I'm sure either way, they're like, well, this is the position we're drafting at. This is the player we were going to get. But they're going to take Eli Apple out of Ohio State. They need corner help. They got to certify that defense so Andrew Luck doesn't have to score 45 points every week. And that's, it's a safe pick. As far as the player goes, it's high. It's a safe high because you probably get, well, I'm sure that there's going to be more corners than what I say are going to be picked in the first round picked, but because I have 3. Because I consider Jalen Ramsey to be a possible corner. So Apple's the last of the defensive backs coming off the board, to me. and that's probably not going to be the case. I'm sure that a lot of teams are going to stretch to get their corners in the first round. I just don't see the value in doing that. If you're gonna take a guy who's got a 50 as a prospect ranking on your board, and you have the 20th pick, you should be trading back because you can get him at 50 if you play it smart. But that's not always how teams look at it, but that's how I look at it. Anyways, Buffalo Bills, my old hometown. My dad's probably not going to be too happy because Buffalo's going to take a linebacker. Darren Lee, outside linebacker, Ohio State. 2 Ohio State players in a row. Ohio State's getting a lot of love from me in this draft. Lots of love. A lot of defensive players from Ohio State. What can I say? That's kind of what happened. But Darren Lee, here's the thing. It's going to be a linebacker. Dad, I'm sorry. Buffalo's got 6 linebackers on their roster right now. They just cut one today. Whoever they pick's got to be a linebacker. If they move up and they can get their hands on Leonard Floyd, that's great. If they move up even farther and get their hands on Miles Jacks, kudos. They have to get a linebacker. They're set receivers. They have their running game set. They've got the quarterback. I think they've got the quarterback. I don't know if Tyrod is going to be there long term. Contract says that the news says he's willing to go into the season without a contract because he's young, got to prove his numbers. But if he's not, don't. Let's not be naive about it. Buffalo's taking a quarterback in this draft. Probably as early as the 3rd round. They're not taking a 2nd-round quarterback, but probably as early as the 3rd round, you'll see them take a quarterback, and it will. If they're lucky, it'll be one of the quarterbacks that's got a little bit of prestige to him that can maybe win a competition if it came down to that. But as of right now, Darren Lee, linebacker, Ohio State. The Jets. Okay, so here's the thing. With what's going on with Wilkerson right now and the fact that he could be traded, I don't know if he's going to be traded or not. I, as a Lions fan, would do what I could to try to get a talent like him on our roster. Especially since you're never going to get a team to commit to a player that doesn't want to be there to force you to give up a 1st-rounder. So you can draft a player and get Muhammad Wilkerson in this draft. But the Jets have got to prep for that, so they're going to go ahead and get themselves a defensive tackle. And Chris Jones from Mississippi State's on the board. And why not take him? You get big up front. If Wilkerson stays there as a whole year, and you have him and Jones and whoever else they have in the front, you can mash them out. If it's a 3-4, he could probably slip to end. It's you get those big guys. I like to meet up front. It sounds good. Chris Jones. Now this is a first in my mock draft. A nose tackle and not a defensive tackle. Yes, I understand the nose tackle is a 3-4 term or a 4-3 term if you want to differentiate your defensive tackle and your run gap and your pass gap guy. I get it. I understand that. But Washington's going to be looking for a nose tackle. So they're going to go after Andrew Billings from Baylor. Big guy. He's not going to push the field. He's not going to push up the field. He's going to be a run stopper. He's going to force the double teams. He's going to allow single coverage on your edge rushers. It's a good pick, and Washington's another team that, as far as like going big in the middle, like for 1st round, they have a tendency. They like themselves some offensive linemen and defensive linemen. So it seems like it was a match made in heaven at this point. All right. Very comfortable for the keeper here. I'm 2/3 of the way through this draft. I have not said I said one receiver's name, Treadwell. There are going to be people that are going to tell me that Treadwell isn't even the best receiver in this draft, and they're going to get a chance to debate it when Houston plays, because Houston's going to go get Will Fuller from Notre Dame. It's not really close to me because they're two different kinds of receivers, and Treadwell is going to play the big Plexico Burress role on the other side of Odell Beckham. Fuller's not going to fill that role for the Giants, so Fuller is not an option for the Giants early on. But Houston, necessarily not looking for the height guy, so they're going to take the most talented guy, and they're going to get Will Fuller. Houston's going to end up with a better deal out of this because I think Fuller's got a higher end to him than Treadwell, but that's the pairings are going to be fun because Hopkins and Fuller versus Odell Beckham and Treadwell. Who do you take? People are going to say that's not really a decision because Odell Beckham's better than Hopkins, but that's here nor there. All right. So back-to-back. How about back-to-back receivers? How does that make everyone feel? Minnesota, they need receiver help. Minnesota's going to do what Indianapolis did. They're going to be like, all right, well, position of need is receiver. We have already seen the top two go off the board. If Minnesota can't move up to get Treadwell or Fuller, expect them to take Doxson from TCU at this position. This draft is hard because I didn't put any of the trades in it because I didn't want to put my first one out ahead of time and also try to include all the trades I think could happen. I think there could be upwards of 7 trades in this first round. And a lot of them in this section right now, the middle of the first round, because it's going to be your first shots at some of these guys. So if a team was going to move all the way up to the beginning of the first round, which is where your elite players are, this draft is second and third round heavy. So you're looking at like 5 guys at the top of the draft that could be franchise guys, faces of franchise. But other than that, you're looking at starters, but starters, that's what they are. They're not. I mean, they're going to have to put the work in if they're going to go beyond just being an everyday starter a couple of years, But anyways, so Minnesota's looking at Doxson from TCU. They got to take him. They're looking for a receiver. Realistically, this is probably a position where they trade out because they can get him in the second round and let a team. I don't know. I don't see a team that would want to move up at this point unless you're at the back end. If you're Carolina and your target guy is threatened by another like Seattle or something, which I'll explain why I said those two teams when we get to it. But here we go. Cincinnati. How about a third receiver in a row? How about Corey Coleman goes to Cincinnati? Coleman could probably beat out Dotson for the third receiver. Coleman might be able to be the second receiver off the board, but in this scenario, he's the fourth. Mostly because I think Cincinnati's. I really like the pairing of Cincinnati and Coleman. I know what it says about Minnesota. Minnesota has a tendency to go a little bit off the beaten path when it comes to their picks. So they might let Coleman slip one. I don't think Cincinnati passes on him if they get a chance. So Coleman, Cincinnati. It just sounds right. So we go to Pittsburgh after this. Now Pittsburgh's been licking their chops every time I've made a pick for any other team because an offensive tackle has slid all the way to Pittsburgh, who is a top 15 pick in LeRaven Clark from Texas Tech. But because of what teams are going after team need and less of best player available in this draft, they're going to go get that tackle. They're going to go get a tackle that they can put in the offense, take care of Ben, this has been the theme for me in this draft, is teams that are trying to prove something are going out to get guys to make sure that they can prove something first. Cleveland going out and getting Tunson early instead of drafting a position it could fill a hole for the overall team. They're going to go get the best offensive lineman available, and then go, okay, quarterbacks that are on our team, this is the best scenario you could have. Do something with it. Look, LaRaven is smiling ear to ear because he gets to get plugged into an offense that, Roethlisberger is just a great quarterback, and he is going to continue to be a great quarterback. And they run the ball, so he gets to be big and he gets to be big and tough, which is fun. So he's going to be the winner of that. He's probably a better prospect than Conklin to me, but I don't think Miami feels the same way. So I'm going to say that Clark to Pittsburgh. Now, okay, here's where a couple of interesting things happened. Pittsburgh, in my original draft, was going to go take Whitehair, the guard from Kansas State. I've seen a lot of red flags for him. So Whitehair's been bumped out of my first round. Right? So that's how Pittsburgh ends up getting a tackle in this scenario. Seattle's in the same way. Nichme from Ole Miss, the defensive tackle, is on the board. And in my original draft, he goes here. He goes to Seattle. Seattle defensive personnel fixes this kid. He becomes a great defensive tackle for him for a decade, hands down. But I can't commit to the decision to put him here because I think where his skill level is really good, I think there's going to have to be a team that takes a shot on him. But I don't think any of the teams are going to be risking a first round when he's likely to slip to the second round, and he's likely to be a mid-second round pick, and then everyone's going to get shocked when he blows up in the NFL because he's a young man who's going to learn responsibility in the NFL, and then it's going to just be about his football play, which is good. But so Seattle passes on him to take Sean Robinson, defensive tackle Alabama. Robinson is also another one of those guys that prospect-wise is higher on the board than where he got drafted, mostly because of his position. Again, deep interior defense in this draft. There's no need for a team to go out and get that when they can get it in second, third round. So he slipped. I would say he probably slipped 15 picks. I think I originally had him trying to lace up for Chicago, because Chicago to me has it's a defensive line thing for them. Which defensive lineman was it? But yeah, I think Sean Robinson is the slot here. You need a big guy up in the middle, eat up some blocks. If Seattle didn't do it, I would think Arizona would have done it when they came up, but because they just released Campbell, so they need another meat man. But they'll take Robinson here for Seattle. Green Bay. I've had this guy has been in Green Bay's spot the whole time, just because whenever I think of his name, all I can think about is former defensive linemen from Green Bay, despite the fact that their names are nowhere the same. Was it KGB? I think was his nickname for Green Bay. Just an interesting. He has an interesting name, and it feels like it's a good fit. I'm going to say Emmanuel Ogbah from Oklahoma State is going to go to Green Bay here. Good player. I explained to you that the name is really what's making me want to make this decision. But his talent's there. Now, Green Bay could be filling other needs with this pick, but I just feel I have a gut feeling that this is the pick they make if they stay in that position. Kansas City. Kansas City's going to look for another big guy too. I'm interested to see how they play him once they have him. But Jaron Reed from Alabama goes here. You want to say he's just a run stopper, but I really feel like 2 or 3 years into the NFL, we're going to see him be a lot more than a run stopper. He's going to be he could end up being the steal of the first round overall. Although in my mind the steal was early because the best overall player went 5, but that's beside the point. Yeah, so Jaron Reed comes here to Kansas City, defensive tackle. Kansas City needs a receiver, but I'm not going to go on the prospect list and go into my 40s to give Kansas City a receiver in the first round. Sorry, guys, that's not going to happen. If Kansas City takes a receiver here, it's on a stretch, and they should know better. And if they really, really, really wanted a receiver, they should have moved up. So, this position, you don't have a receiver that matches your value, so you take the best player on the board, it's Jaron Reed. Arizona is going to set a new precedent here. They're going to go out and get the only tight end in this year's draft. Hunter Henry, Arkansas. They're going to take him. They're going to put him. They're going to slot him right into the tight end position opening day. They're going to give him. They're going to give him an opportunity to run down the field. He is not a blocker by any stretch of the imagination, and if the only side effect to him being drafted in the first round is if teams are looking for a blocking tight end, or at least a guy that can do both, he won't go in the first round. There won't be a tight end drafted in the first round. Tight ends aren't usually a commodity in the first round either. So, but I think this fills a need. They need the mismatches, and they're in win now mode because they have a roster around them. So, yeah, go get yourself a tight end. You just watched the best available defensive tackle be taken the pick before. You don't lose anything for drafting a guy that fills a need. So, Carolina. Oh, Carolina, you hurt my head when it comes to this draft because every ounce of my body wants me to believe that there's no reason for them to draft a player in a position where they already have a star. And that would be at running back. But what they want to do with their offense, and Derrick Henry's on the board. The kid's a beast. He's huge. Derrick Henry goes here. And this is another one of those shockers to me because if Derrick Henry makes it down the board this far and Carolina gets a chance to get him, you might as well just pencil Carolina into the Super Bowl next year because they just improved their ground game, which is already really good. And they're bringing most of their team back. So,
and back it goes to the goalkeeper.
Yeah, they keep the ball on the ground and play good defense. How can you beat them? They control the ball and don't let people score. That's how you win games. That's how you win championships. It's a philosophy that let's think about the Steelers. The Steelers have done it. It's only been recent that the Steelers have let Roethlisberger sling as much. When they were having success and going to Super Bowls and stuff, they were running the ball. So yeah, Derrick Henry, second quarterback or second running back, 2 running backs off the board, 3 receivers off the board, 2 quarterbacks off the board, and no one will believe me that this is what the draft should look like. And after we get through the last pick in the first round, because this is the last pick coming up, because New England doesn't get a pick because they're dirty cheaters, I'll explain why players are not going in the first round to me. Okay? Denver. Kevin Dodd is going to get picked in the first round. Kevin Dodd is another one of those guys that, depending on the team and what value they have for him, could go as high as the, what, second defensive lineman off the board, because again, Chicago could take Dodd at 10 or 11, whichever one they have. Wherever Chicago drafts, they can end up taking Dodd instead of Bosa. It's a Clemson thing again, though, and man, if that's what ends up being, if it's Bosa ahead of Lawson and Dodd, it's hard for me to believe, but I feel like that's how that's how the draft will go. Anyways, Kevin Dodd finishes the first round. So, notable players that aren't on my first round pick. Howard, I believe, the running back from Indiana. Teams can get running backs, and the teams that needed running backs in the first round, or thought they needed running backs, I guess in Carolina's instance, to run the offense they want to run, they get another running back. But teams that have running backs, that happened. I think Howard could slip the early second round. He's going to make whoever picks him up in the early second round very happy. San Diego, I'm looking at you. Early in the second round, San Diego gets Howard, and everyone's happy as far as another running back coming off the board, except for he wasn't a first round pick. Alternate scenarios for teams: Dallas doesn't take a running back in the first round, takes Howard early in the second. Howard becomes a Cowboy. Talented player. He's going to run. He's going to run a lot. He's going to put a lot of yards up on the field for whoever he plays for. But it's a position thing. And I'm sorry, but it's a position thing. He's a running back in a league that passes the ball more than it ever has. And yes, people are saying this is the renaissance of the running back because this draft class has a couple of good ones. But it's a renaissance for the draft class, or it's a renaissance for the position in the sense that they're good and they could play, but the NFL's not changing. It's pass first now. He's got to be able to catch the ball. He's got to be able to play in the slot, and there's going to be running backs through the draft, you know. And again, the teams that thought they needed running backs got the running backs. Howard is not going to eclipse Elliott or Henry to be the second or first running back off the board. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. So, you know, you gotta wait. You gotta wait your turn, and that's in the second round. Paxton Lynch. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people. He's got the size to make you happy. He's got, you know, he's 6'6". He's got an active arm, and he's athletic. He can run and stuff, but. You know, I've seen mock drafts that have Denver taking him in the first round. Because, you know, well, Mark Sanchez is their starting quarterback. Well, guess what, guys? You're not getting any farther by making Paxton Lynch your starting quarterback. I'm sorry. That's not how this works. This doesn't work by you draft a guy, and because you drafted a guy in the first round, he is a first-round talent. Paxton Lynch is a second-round talent all day. He could do something special. He could be a good quarterback. I'm not saying that's not a possibility, but he's not ready right now. And with what talent there is in this draft, you have to take what's ready right now. And it's lineman, defensive, offensive. So Paxton Lynch. I see him as a second-round quarterback that basically pushes all the quarterbacks back a little bit, depending on what you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for Paxton Lynch as a possible first round, why not wait until the third or fourth round and then take Dak from Texas A&M? Because they do the same things, except for Dak was playing for better teams and putting up big stats. You know, well, I mean, Lynch put up stats too. That's not fair, but you could get talent in fourth round. So who's looking for? Basically, at this point, if we assume Paxton Lynch is a second-round pick, who's looking for backup quarterbacks or future quarterbacks? There's still backups if they're future, but Dallas will be in the need. Paxton Lynch should be there in the second round. If Dallas goes Ezekiel Elliott first pick, and then quarterback second round, they're going to get a lot of flack because they didn't address any defensive needs, but they could, if they can get Lynch to a point where he is better than what he is right now, they could be set for another big run after Romo's gone. I'm focused on Lynch right now, and I apologize, but this I've said in other videos, and I will continue to say it, and I'll probably say it after the draft. This is a 2-quarterback draft as far as solidified first rounders go. And the only reason that it's even a 2-quarterback draft is because Wentz has these physical abilities that can't be taught. If he was a pocket passer, like a bona fide pocket, like he's a good pocket passer, don't get me wrong. But if that's all he did, if he couldn't run, this would be a 1-quarterback draft. St. Louis would have gotten the quarterback in this draft. And we would be looking at backup quarterbacks the rest of the way. Anyways, do I see any of the quarterbacks besides the 2 drafted in the first round starting this year?
Now that's a throw.
Yes. Butt fumble, Mark Sanchez is going to get benched. And whoever the backup quarterback to him is, probably a rookie at this point, will get to see the field.
You can understand why he's kept going for goal, having scored the game. But this one has passed him by.
Whoever the quarterback is that is drafted by Dallas, because I believe Tony Romo is going to get hurt again, will likely see the field. Man.
Inverness, Caledonian Thistle.
Oh man, Cleveland's probably not going to have a quarterback see the field. That's a rookie that was drafted. Let me get all of those steps out of the way, because this is how the depth chart looks like it's going to come out. RG3, McNown, and then if they carry a third quarterback, it will be a quarterback that was either undrafted or they will sign one in free agency. Cleveland is in such a position this year that they could do themselves a huge favor and not believe the hype. Don't buy in to the fact that you need a quarterback this year. You didn't sign RG3 to draft a quarterback at number 2. But it's the most coveted position in the NFL, and it's why Cleveland is trying so hard to get out of the pick. Because if they can get out of the pick and not have to be considered taking the second quarterback in the draft, then they can go, well, RG3's our quarterback because we didn't draft a quarterback. And now all of the Cleveland fans are going to have to look at it and go, well, yeah, because you moved out of the position, but they're moving out of the position anyways, guys. That's almost guaranteed. If they stay, they could help RG3 with getting more offensive line help. But
delighted to be here.
There's a lot of talk today about Philly getting that pick, and if Philadelphia gets that pick, it's for a quarterback. And kudos to Cleveland, because they're going to clean up for it. Even only moving up, what, five spots? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, moving up. Well, it would be 6 spots. It would 2 Cleveland spot. Move up 6 spots. They're still going to get decent value, which is going to help with their team. But Cleveland should consider staying still and drafting a lineman. Because I'm going to make that bold prediction now. Because if they struggle this year too, they're not going to keep. Why would they keep Joe Thomas for next year? One, when he still, I mean, he has value this year. That's the real ball kicker about it. Is if they're not preparing themselves to try to push for the playoffs, they should have got rid of Joe Thomas. He's got a big contract. He's getting older. He's still got value on the market. Next year they might be a little bit remorseful because, success or not, they're not going to get the value for Joe Thomas, or they won't be offered the same value for Joe Thomas if they were thinking about trading him. I'm gonna go back down the draft a little bit too here because I'm interested in some of my own picks. Buckner at 3. Man, Buckner at 3. Whew. I'm trying to sell the fact that San Diego's management is going to try to stick their middle finger up to Eric Weddle and say we don't even need to draft the best player available that also plays your position to fill your hole. Your hole can be filled by someone of lesser value. I'm trying to say, on my board, the best player in this draft goes 5 because of positions. And that's saying that Jacksonville doesn't value Miles Jack for Ramsey. If Jacksonville says, well, our best player on our board is Miles Jack because at 5 we didn't expect to see him. Well, he should be there at 5. He should absolutely be there at 5, and you should absolutely pass on him because if he's the best on your board, you weren't expecting much this year out of this draft. He's good. He's good. He's a good linebacker. He's going to make someone very happy as long as he can stay healthy. But, I mean, there should be a huge flag on him. There are people saying that at any moment, his knee could give out. And all the videos in the world doesn't take away from the fact that could still happen. Actually, making the video just increases the possibility because it's more strain on his knee. So, do you risk taking Miles Jacks and then, when he gets hurt, heaven forbid he does, but when he does get hurt, go, well, that's the reason our season went down the drain is because Miles Jack got hurt. If you're Cleveland, if you're San Diego, you're Dallas, or you're Jacksonville, or even if you're Baltimore, you're not doing that. I'm sorry, you can't do that. Not when there's other talented players that could fill a hole of need in the draft. So, Cleveland could take Ramsey and pair him up with Joe Hayden and realistically should have the best corner duo in the NFL. They won't, because here's the thing about corners, guys, and everyone who follows football should know this. Corners get exposed the longer the play goes. It's a fact. And Cleveland doesn't have a threat for defensive line. So, Chris, why didn't you make Cleveland take a defensive lineman? Why isn't Buckner your number 2? Because Tunson's the best player not named Ramsey in this draft. He's the best offensive lineman. He's the only bona fide left tackle, my opinion, in the draft. Like, he's a day one. He could be a day one left tackle if he goes anywhere besides Cleveland. But I mean, yeah, why not take defense still? I mean, you could still be like, well, it's not a position of need, and we could draft a player that could help us on defense, and then make sure that the corners we do have are
still got the ball,
is capable to do what they can, or have 2 corners and hope that they are shut down. Okay, yeah, you could do that. You're basically telling the quarterback that you just signed, that was a future first rounder, who was offensive rookie of the year, and has the potential to put you on his back because he does have that skill set. RG3 does have that skill set. The line that we have for you right now is the best you're going to get. And when you fail, because we are not letting you, we're setting you up to do that, your career is over. I mean, they're not saying that obviously in words, but the best offensive lineman's on the board, obviously, because it's the second overall pick. You're in a division where you're fighting for third immediately. But you come in, you give RG3 2 tackles, 2 cornerstone tackles, guarantee him that if he can make it past this contract with Cleveland, he's still got protection even when Joe Thomas is gone. Because they will just move Tunson, because they can do that, because he's that talented. And he gets his confidence back, and you might be on the side to winning. And here's another fun thing about that, is you make Washington look bad, because Washington couldn't get him to win. They set him up to fail more than what you would if you didn't draft the tackle at this point. And it's just, it seems like a no shit pick for me. Like, you got a brand new quarterback who just got released from a team whose confidence is low because, you know, people don't know if they can trust him as far as being the franchise quarterback. Give him the protection. Tunson at 2. It makes more sense than just about anything else. But Buckner at 3 was where this whole rant got started. I just think San Diego's ego is going to get in the way. They had a guy that was the captain of their defense for 10 years. And they're going to be, well, yeah, about 10 years. And they're going to tell him, no, we could replace you with someone later in the draft. It doesn't have to be a first rounder. Even though he's the most talented player, in my opinion, again. But it doesn't hurt to have pass rush. It just doesn't hurt. And Buckner is a freak of nature athletically. I saw Sports Science saying he covers like 11 feet up in the air. So quarterbacks have to throw over the top of him. The ball's going to get lofted. Going to make those corners look really good. Jacksonville's looking their chops at 5. If Jalen Ramsey's there at 5 and they go anywhere else, Jacksonville's not going to anywhere this year. And I understand it's one pick and it's a first round pick, but it's indicative of their thought processes. If they think that the best player in the draft, again, my opinion, is available and they go elsewhere. Well, the only scenario that happens is if they think that there's a player that's better than him, right? Okay, well, you scout out your team or your prospects, and you go, well, neither of the quarterbacks are top prospects to us because we already have our franchise quarterback, who's a good quarterback, and Blake Bortles. The offensive tackle shouldn't make it to us at 5. If the offensive tackle makes it to Jacksonville, if Tunson makes it to Jacksonville at 5, Jacksonville's still licking their chops, so they win in both of those scenarios. DeForest Buckner, I can see a draft scenario where DeForest Buckner doesn't go or makes it to them at 5. They don't want you don't draft another defensive lineman. You have to you can't draft another defensive lineman. You gotta go tell the fans and the people on your roster that you're serious about trying to win. And if you draft another defensive lineman, another pass rusher, you're saying, well, a couple years from now, they got a decent team. They could go out and compete this year. They could do that. And then on top of it, the cake on top of all of it is, again, my opinion, but get the best player in the draft. And again, I see scenarios where Tunson could fall to 5, which shame on the other 4 teams that didn't pick him, because that's a cornerstone 10 to 12 year left tackle. Right there, just set up. He scratch him in now. He's your tackle. Yeah. So Jacksonville 5 is licking their chops. Who screws that up for him at 5? Well, 4 does, because Dallas Dallas could go and say, we don't need Ezekiel Elliott with our offensive line to be successful. Okay. You know, maybe they're the team going, you know, we could take Howard in the second round. He fits our whichever running back fits our scheme better. We could trade back into the first and get Henry later, depending on what their value is on the running back. And then they take Ramsey, and then Jacksonville. In my scenario, where Tunson goes 2 and Ramsey goes 4, Jacksonville doesn't get, you know, Jacksonville gets Miles Jacks, and then the I don't know, the scouts will tell you that Jacksonville should be looking their chops at that point, but I think it's something to worry about. It's a flag. I don't know how I feel about it. Jax is a great player, but if his knee gives out and he gets to play 2 or 3 seasons, then he's done. Or even if that long, you know, is he worth a first-round pick? I think Philly thinks he is, because I think Philly sometimes they think about this year. I think that's indicative of them bringing in Chip Kelly and trying to do the Sam Bradford thing. You know, going out and spending the big money and shit. I think that was indicative of them only thinking about the first year, especially since, you know, Bradford is being talked as he could be out of town. Murray is gone. Kelly's gone. I mean, Philly, if they could do that, they could be like, now we could take the risk on Miles Jack. It seems like it would be their philosophy that gets them to do that. I have no problem with Hargreaves at Tampa Bay. Again, if you got Ramsey's marked as a safety, Hargreaves is your first corner. So you're looking at the number 1 corner, and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't hurt. So that's not a bad pick. Treadwell, I think just for the matchup with Odell Beckham, Treadwell makes more sense than any of the other receivers. And yes, I understand that to NFL teams, the receiver is going to have more value than what I've given him, but I don't care. Treadwell, it should be the first receiver off the board. Chicago, you are in a position because you are going to have the pick of the litter. And as a Lions fan, I hope you make the wrong decision. As a sports fan, I'm pretty sure you're going to make the wrong decision. As someone who's starting the mock drafts and watching the scouting and watching gameplay from college, I'm certain you're going to make the wrong decision. And unfortunately, the wrong decision is Joey Bosa at this point. Poor him, right? Because if I was sitting in the same room with him and told him that he was going to be a bust at 10, he'd probably snap my neck, because the guy he's physically intimidating. I mean, I'm not small, but he'd probably break my neck. But
Devlin,
I mean, he'll play in the league. He'll play in the league for 7 or 8 years, and he'll be a squad guy. You know, they'll get squad time out of him for sure. But why are you going out and getting a squad guy when there's 2 defensive tackles and 3? 2 defensive tackles and 3 defensive linemen who could be drafted at the same spot that I don't think are squad guys. Shaq Lawson, Kevin Dodds, Ogba. I don't see them as squad guys. I see them as they're plug and play potential stars as far as the NFL goes. And any one of the defensive tackles could improve your team. I know that they like their defensive tackles, but the big guys up front stop the run. It doesn't expose your weakness at linebacker, which, man, if you had a chance to get a high-end linebacker, you probably would have done that too. But the highest end linebacker is Miles Jacks. And I think Chicago's probably one of the teams, because it's cold weather, that's going to look at him and go, it's not worth the risk on his knee. Philly, again, Chicago cold weather, Philly's cold weather. Chris, you put him in Philly. Like, how are you going to say that? Well, because each one of these entities think differently, and I'm thinking Chicago would be a team that would look at something like that. It would be another reason why Chicago wouldn't have drafted Russell Wilson, because he's a small quarterback, despite the fact that his hands are as big as any of the other quarterbacks in the draft that year. That's why they've stayed away from running backs and receivers that were prominently from the South, because they play in the winter. I'm just saying, it's my opinion. I'm allowed to have it. I think they're going to look and go, whatever, what have you. Some of the steals later in the draft. Oh man,
It's Gillespie.
yeah, LaRaven Clark. If he falls that far, he's a steal. Don't know if he can play left tackle. I probably wouldn't let him play left tackle. I mean, as a fill-in, like guy got hurt or something, yeah, he could probably play left tackle for a little bit, but he's probably a solidifying right tackle. But he plays right tackle 10, 12 years. So, he can do that.
And he is feeling that special delight at the moment.
Derrick Henry at 30 to Carolina. I bet you there's a couple teams before them that would be interested in taking a running back if they could convince the GM that they need more than one. Let's do that. Let's do that. LA just the Rams just took a running back last year. Cleveland has a handful of guys, probably can handle the load. Consider them if Henry's there at 2 in the second round, or consider Howard for the second round for them. Again, a position that helps RG3 though, because if they can run the ball effectively, RG3 doesn't get exposed as much.
Super header.
Just the absolute needs in this environment is they need to protect their quarterback. San Diego's got San Diego might be available for a second round running back. Dallas, I have taking a running back. Jacksonville's got their running backs. Baltimore's got a running back. San Francisco's got a running back. Philly might consider something like that. But if Philly's the one that's trying to move up, they're not moving up for a running back. They're moving up for the other quarterback. Tampa Bay's got the running back. The Giants have got the running back. Chicago, interesting. Matt Forte's gone. Chicago. Ooh, that would be interesting. If they decided that their defense was strong enough that they could bring in a running back at the 10th pick. Oh man. But if that 10th pick is Derrick Henry, given what we've seen of him, that's a draft pick that could save Jay Cutler's career. Realistically, think about that. Jay Cutler, basically, just take the RG3 argument I just made and put Jay Cutler in it. You don't expose as much of his weakness because you can run the ball. And you know when Matt Forte's on that they didn't have to worry about Jay Cutler being a little sporadic. You know? They could kind of, they could dink and dunk because they know that Forte could bail them out. It's just the age that got on Forte's side. That's interesting. You might see that in my Monday draft. I might move him up. No promises. But
no, they can't. They have to do
man, I think I'd freak out a couple of Chicago fans if I did that. Especially when there's talent. There'll be talent in the second and third rounds that they could fill in the position. But where are we? New Orleans is. I think New Orleans is set for running backs. Miami's okay. Miami might take one later, but they're not going to be interested in taking Derrick Henry. Sorry, it's just. It's not the guy they need. Oakland's going to be all right. Tennessee's all right. Detroit. Yeah, you're never gonna convince me to take a first round running back. Sorry. Unless his name's Barry Sanders. You know, it's where the league is now. 10 years ago, if you would have asked me, yeah, Derrick Henry's. I would have taken Derrick Henry in a heartbeat because we were running. It was still trying to run the ball. Leagues were still trying to, the Lions were still trying to run the ball. Lions aren't trying to run the ball anymore. It would be great if their coaching staff was like, yes, no, we're going to run the ball. We're going to take Derrick Henry, and that's how we're going to do it. Because even if we don't have a great running offensive line, Derrick Henry's going to break tackles because he's huge. He's a big man. He's an inch taller than Peyton Hillis was. And remember that for like 2 years, Peyton Hillis was the best running back in the league. And he's not as heavy as Hillis was, but he's more agile, I think. So maybe Detroit gets crazy. I hadn't thought about it because I hadn't thought about them taking running back. I didn't think about it. This will be the last game for the stream too, by the way. But Detroit, maybe. Atlanta, no. Indianapolis, no. Buffalo, no. The Jets, no, probably not. Washington just lost the dude there. Whoa, that's interesting. Oh, Dallas did just go out and sign. Oh man, why can't I think of the running back's name there? Dallas did just sign homeboy. So, oh man, it's Morris. There you go. So maybe that's not the pick. Maybe that's not the pick. That's interesting. I'm gonna make a note of that before I go to this game real quick. Wow. Oh yeah, that could change a lot. That'll change my board for sure. Well, I mean, either way, you could say you put Morris in as Elliott in the backfield. They could do the same things, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could use them both, I guess. Wow, that was big. Houston, nope. Houston just went and got Lamar Miller. They're thinking Miller and Osweiler is going to lead them to the promised lands. They're going to get a rude awakening when the season starts. But I'm just saying that again. I'm an ASU fan, college. I didn't see anything that made me believe that this was going to be, that he was going to play as a perennial playoff quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a playoff quarterback this year. And realistically, Andrew Luck, Mariota are both in your division. Sorry, dude. Based on quarterbacks alone, you don't make the playoffs. No, probably not. Minnesota, not as long as Adrian Peterson's there, but wouldn't it be interesting if they drafted him? If they took Henry in the first round, and then they had Teddy Bridgewater flanked in a shotgun formation with Adrian Peterson and Derrick Henry, and they just kept running draws, counters, and sweeps, and they didn't have to tell you which running back was getting it. Oh man, that would be interesting. But I don't foresee them taking a running back.
Again, possession squandered,
but
really.
I did when I was doing the mock draft. I did think about that, about Adrian Peterson and Derrick Henry being in the same backfield. That would be that'd be interesting. Cincinnati, no. Pittsburgh, no. Seattle, I originally had them taking him.
From the drop ball.
He's
play on from here.
He's big. I think they want to try Rawls and see how that goes. And running backs, there are a lot of running backs available when the draft comes out and through free agency, and people are cut, and running backs don't have as high a value, and blah, all the things that people say and I say. And
An air of complacency
you could
these fans here today.
probably just record it and keep saying the same things I do about running backs, but remember, I also said that it would be interesting if Detroit tried to take them. Even though they've signed a running back, which puts 4 on their active roster as of last week. 4 on the active roster. I don't think we need 4. Anyways, where are we? Seattle, okay, Green Bay. Depends on how you feel about Eddie Lacy. I did read an article yesterday that said Eddie Lacy could have his last year in Green Bay this year. I also read another article that said he lost about 18 pounds. So weight issues aside, if he can play at the weight that he comes in at and is effective, see why he would get replaced. But always have another running back. And then given the receivers they have, the offensive they have, whenever you have Aaron Rodgers on your roster, you have a chance to win. So are the holes that bad? See, it's the opposite for Aaron Rodgers as it is for Jay Cutler and RG3. Aaron Rodgers makes bad players better than what their actual value is, because he's got great skill. He's a great player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. It's sad as a Lions fan to watch your team lose to him, and you want to hate him, but he's talented. He's gifted. It's kudos to him. After watching the draft that he was in, where he had to sit there for forever, get to go to a great organization. As a Lions fan, I can say that. I think I should point out that as far as rivalries go, I have more of a hatred towards the Bears, mostly because there's never been a player on the Bears that I was like super excited about watching. Now remember, I'm young enough still to where I didn't watch Walter Payton or Gale Sayers play as Bears at all because I was too young. I've seen highlights, and the highlights are amazing because they were amazing players. But since I watched football since I was 7, so we're talking 25 years ago. No, there has been a player that I was like, no, there is. Will Sutton, because he's a former Sun Devil. I would like to see Will Sutton on a different team. Was not a fan of Brian Urlacher. Could care less about Peanut. And obviously not a Cutler fan. So, anyways. KC. Charles is getting up there. They got Niles Dale, whatever his name is. They got a backup. They're good. Arizona, they got Duke, and you know what? I think Duke is going to be the guy that's going to bring the star running back thing back to play, because I think he can handle the load on his own. I think he's going to be the next generation's Adrian Peterson. Don't get that twisted. I'm not saying he's going to be Adrian Peterson. I think he could take the majority of the snaps for the offense. Whether that means that he's only taking 60, which is probably closer to what NFL teams want him to have, but I think he could be on the field 3 downs. I think he could. I think he can pass block. I think he can run. I think he's a good running back. I want to see things out of him. Carolina is where I have him going. So Derrick Henry is there at that point. I mean, I think Carolina would be very happy to see him off the board, to be completely honest, because if he's off the board, then they don't have to make that pick and get tore up by the analysts during the draft. Because man. Todd McShay and Mel Kiper are not going to let it go if Carolina takes a running back. It won't happen. Mel Kiper may lose his mind and Todd McShay might quit. Because they have other needs, but I like them in an offense where they have 2 running backs. So give them another running back. In Denver, they just re-signed Hillman. They kept their other running back, neither one of them have. I'm not looking at either one of them going, oh, they got the pedigree to. That intrigues me, but they don't need the pedigree to intrigue you if they run the ball well. You know? I watched the path to the draft, and the Terrell Davis, who's was a Bronco, obviously, and you know, he had a couple injuries, and but he came from prestigious school. He came from Georgia, and he didn't think he was going to get drafted. And this guy hated the draft process because it was all about him getting hurt. Came in the league and freaking destroyed it from day one. Granted, he didn't destroy it on offense right away. I mean, preseason game, he blew up a dude, and then he got the starting job. But we all know Terrell Davis had his career was short, but he had a great career. You know? So I think the interesting positions in this draft that are going to be, I don't think they're going to be undervalued. I think they're just going to be underrepresented as far as the first round goes, is quarterback and running back. I think there's going to be 2 of each. 3 receivers is going to be low. That's almost a certainty I'm going to be wrong about the receivers, because some GM in the NFL who's probably going to get fired next year is going to think that they need to go into the 50s or the high 40s as far as prospect value to come and get them in the first round. Now, what I'm saying there is, you know, you rank your prospects 1 to 200 or whatever, because you're expecting to sign some unrestricted free agents or what have you. And the first round, there's 31 guys. So there's the top 31 guys on your roster are on your list, are the ones you're realistically paying attention to. You're probably paying attention to the top 40, 45 because, you know, you could watch a team come up. I mean, in an unrealistic scenario, a team comes up twice and takes two or 3 of your guys off the board. Or, you know, you could have bad scouting and you could have a bad board. But
there goes the cross.
I think the best thing a GM could do as far as the draft process goes and looking for a player is pay attention to the value of their pick. Because if they have a prospect who is 45 and that's worth like 150 points as a value pick, this is for the trade numbers to make sure trades are balanced and stuff. It's like worth 100 points for a 45th pick. Taking, let's say, that puts you in the middle of the second round, right? So you're a playoff team. Playoff teams obviously don't make this problem because that's why they're playoff teams, but I just want to present the scenario. You're in the late second round. You're in the, let's say, the 59th position. Second round. But you're like, well, there's no way that we're going to be able to get him in the second round, so we've got to move up to get him. Or we got to move back, or we got to do something. You have to move back first. Because your value in the first round is above 300 and higher, up to 2,000 for the first overall pick, or over 3,000 for the first overall pick. And if you're going to spend a pick of value that's twice as valuable on a guy that's potential is slated from you yourself as half as good, that's how GMs get fired, because they overvalue players in the draft. Now, every GM in this draft will tell you that the defensive line is deep, and the offensive line for the players early, the first couple of rounds, are great. You can get starters through round 3, no question, in those 2 positions. They're also going to tell you that this is one of the weakest draft classes for quarterbacks. But yet, we have a team that moved up to the first pick in the draft to go get a quarterback. The silence that you guys just heard was me going through the idea of me arguing to myself, saying, yeah, Chris, what team went up? The Rams went up. Because of Les Snead and
Cooper.
fucking, what's Mustache Magoo there? I love that guy. Why did I say that? Oh, who's their head coach? Damn. I can't remember names to save my life anymore. But if they don't win this year, they're both gone. So they got to make a bold move. And realistically, to an owner, I've never owned a sports team, but here's my head. If a guy drafts a quarterback this year and says, okay, well, this is the face of the franchise, and, you know, you got to understand that year one may not be as pretty, he might... Jim Fox. No, not Jim Fox. Jeff.
Headed down to a teammate.
Whatever his name is. It'll come to me, and then I'll be upset because I didn't remember it right away. Jeff is his name, I think. You might buy yourself an extra year in the league, or at least with this team, because the owner may give you year one for free. Be like, all right, I can't really critique you on year one because, you know, he's a rookie, but he's got to perform. And then there might be an agreement with the owner going, hey, listen, he's the face of the franchise, yeah, that's cool, but we got Case Keenum, we just re-signed him. Why do we got to throw him right into the fire right away? Like, let's let him sit on the bench and learn, which is something that's just hardly ever done anymore. Let's let him learn our system and the game, and then, you know, year one might be tough, and then he gets himself 2 more years, because now he's get year one where I'm saying Goff in this scenario doesn't play, and then year 2 where Goff is always fresh to the field. You know, like, you know, we gotta give us a year with working with him on the field before it's a deal. So, you know, from that aspect, you know, he can buy himself some time. This game, I got about probably 5 minutes before the clock actually gets to the end of the game. But this is an interesting draft. Not for me as a Lions fan, because the positions, I'm not going to get my hands on any of the guys that I really like. The guys that I'm gushing over today, that you've heard me gush over: Tunson, Ramsey. I would take Stanley at this point. Buckner. I'm not going to see those guys at 16, and I've sent out tweets to the Lions. I've asked specific Lions players how they feel about giving up a whole bunch of draft picks to move up, so we can go get the talent that's at the top of this draft and solidify a position. Okay, I don't like drafting offensive linemen. I understand it's a necessity, and my mock drafts are filled with offensive linemen because, despite the fact that I hate drafting them, they are a position of need. So, to a lot of teams. But, Tunson, the only certified left tackle in my mind. Go up and get him. Move Riley over to right tackle. Solidify the offensive line. Give Matt Stafford a couple more years. Because, again, this is Matt Stafford's year for me. If he can't do it this year, why are we paying him that much money? But you got to give him his best chance available. And it's not a receiver. Could be a running back. Derrick Henry. That's an since I said it. It's an interesting concept. I'll probably pick him up for my my team when I have Madden this year. I will probably make him a Lion. Because he's interesting. But offensive lineman, yeah, and you got to give your quarterback the best chance. Tunson, the best lineman available, and he's also probably the only left tackle in the draft. I don't know. It seems like this is that would be the year for it. If it wasn't for the fact that Darius Slay forged his name into a good corner by trial by fire, he got better because he got played. But he's a good corner.
We know how many late goals come in this competition.
And Quinn
Want another one now.
being back there
It's not gonna be a
solidifies shit, but
complicated approach now.
you need
Long
more
balls
defensive
into the
backs,
box
man.
for many
Rasheed
angles.
Mathis was our number 2 and he
Trying to win
retired
that first
because
header.
he's old. Jalen Ramsey's there. He could be an option. I don't... You know, go get him. Go get one of these talented guys.
Quite straightforwardly, quite simply.
In no scenario does Detroit try to move up to get a quarterback because neither of these quarterbacks are anywhere near Matt Stafford's level right now. And that's a guy that's coming from the guy who just said this is the year that Matt Stafford has to win or he should be gone. With that understanding, understand that Matt Stafford should be on thin ice along with Jim Caldwell.
Tackling is a real skill.
On coming back next year because they've done nothing.
Well, now they've won the ball back.
Caldwell was handed a playoff team. Handed a playoff team. I think Jim Caldwell's been handed a couple of playoff teams. To be completely honest, you inherit Tony Dungy's Super Bowl team. Of course, you're going to do well. You know, getting to go to Baltimore and be on a roster that's set and basically just have to stand there and look good. Of course you... I didn't like the Jim Caldwell hire anyways, but that's here and there, I guess. This is about the draft, damn it. Yeah, interesting. I guess talking through it on here, I see Ezekiel Elliott not being a Cowboy pick. Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris is the guy's name. The seconds go off the clock, and I remember the running back that the Cowboys signed. Alfred Morris from Washington. That's the starting running back. So they're not going to draft a running back. I'm stupid. I'm a dumb guy. You just heard that right at the end of this. Right at the end of this video. I am stupid for not remembering that. But okay, so let's talk it out. Let's just talk about it real quick. I know, I promised you 3 games.
Aberdeen.
Here, I'm pushing a button. I might play, or 4 games. I might play another one. We'll see.
Second, the former
Ezekiel Elliott,
with 56.
he doesn't go to LA, right? Because LA is taking quarterback. He's not going to, because I still think Tunson's the best pick for Cleveland at 2. San Diego at 3, no. They're not going to... They just drafted Melvin Gordon. They're not drafting another running back. Dallas... Man, I guess that basically tells Jacksonville that there's no way Ramsey slips to you guys. It's almost a guarantee. Ramsey has to go to Dallas at 4. And that means Miles Jacks jumps from Philadelphia all the way up to Jacksonville. And, man, Philly's at linebacker. Still looking for a linebacker. Okay, so Philly comes up and they take Floyd. And now New Orleans is looking for a linebacker. And New Orleans comes up and gets Detroit's pick. And now Detroit's looking for a linebacker. And wow, Ezekiel Elliott, you fucked my whole draft, man. You screwed my whole draft up. Because now nothing I said is right. Nothing I said is right. For my first mock draft that's going into this year, my first written mock draft ever. I've done mock drafts before, but with friends, never published it to anything. I'm actually publishing this one. This first draft is wrong. There's no way Dallas cannot take Ezekiel Elliott. Wow. Okay, well, I'm going to go work on that instead of talking. Well, you know what? I'll play one more, talk it out. Because maybe the inspiration is through playing these guys in red and yellow with the sun on their chest. Maybe that's where the answers are, folks. Okay. Good God, I almost made a horrible decision. Okay, so it's Goff. I think it's Tunson at 2. Until that draft is guaranteed, it's Tunson at 2. I'm sorry. I can't. Who are you going to... It can't not be. There's not a... There's oh, it's snowing. Oh, I get to play in snow. Oh, I haven't done that since I I've done that since my junior year in high school.
Yeah, it's a bit chilly.
Cool.
Keep moving
All
down
right.
there, but the snow for the moment doesn't seem
where
to be
was I?
settling
Ezekiel
too much,
Elliott.
so shouldn't have too many problems.
I guess it depends on how much Dallas
for the home side.
values Alfred
With
Morris.
the way this manager likes to play, that's always going to sit pretty
even
much in
then.
place, and the two in midfield as well.
Yeah, that
Don't they still have Darren McFadden on their roster? He used to be a running back. I mean,
many times they'll be just trying
he
to
hasn't
feed it into
had.
those front four lads.
He had a decent year last year, McFadden.
Stopped by the goalkeeper.
I guess so. I mean, that pushes Ramsey up to from 5 to 4, getting him more closer and closer to being the best player in the draft, which is again my opinion.
Possibly the snow actually helped him with that challenge.
He won't go number 1. That's not going to happen. St. Louis is not going to pull the trigger on that huge trade, lose those draft picks to draft a defensive back. Sorry, just not going to happen. So Dallas takes Ramsey. Yeah, they take Ramsey. Unless San Diego doesn't have an ego. And then San Diego gets him up to 3. Now he's getting even closer to being the best player in the draft. They take him at 3, and then they take Dallas gets the chances to force Buckner. Dallas is going to win this draft, win this early rounds because man, they could trade back and get a corner.
David Amu.
And they could trade back to let's just say Indy spot because Indy's the one that took Apple in my mock draft. They trade back to Indianapolis and get Eli Apple. Okay, well, that's either the second best corner or the third best corner in the draft. But it's a first. He's not a guaranteed first round pick. I see him as he could be an early second round pick, but I haven't seen a draft in recent years where there's only been 3 cornerbacks taken. So I'm not predicting that this will be the one. In my mind, it should probably be, but because of what is available, I feel like there's gonna be one of the defensive linemen that's gonna slip to the second round. That's gonna end up greatly overplaying his draft value, and his name won't be Bosa. Man, I hate on Joey Bosa. Hate. But okay, so let's Ezekiel Elliott not to Dallas.
Too clever there with that pass of the dink ball.
Jalen Ramsey. Man, that's tough.
Shows a competitive streak, but maybe not quite the winning mentality.
That's tough.
No, but you wonder whether the draw here
It would be a lot easier to. Well, it wouldn't be a lot easier because it just moves a pick after Dallas. But if I knew what Philly was doing, because again, Philly's got a lot of rumors right now that they're trying to get to 2. And they're going to 2 to get Carson Wentz. They're not going to 2 to get anyone else. But that makes a lot of things easier because San Diego at 3 could take Tunson. Because now they're like, okay, best player available. And then you could still have San Diego having the ego about not wanting to draft the safety to replace Weddle. I mean, the story plays out for me like that. I can understand that if Philly gets up to 2.
Interesting news again from Alan McInally. Thanks, Alan.
If Philly gets up to 2, Detroit should try to get up to 3. Because Ramsey, Tunson are still available, and the third overall pick has got less. It costs less to get than the first overall pick. Oh man, Ezekiel Elliott screwed up my whole draft. No, actually, it's not his fault. It's Alfred Morris's fault. God damn it! Why did you go to Dallas, Alfred? You bastard! You could have went to Chicago, filled in for Matt Forte.
Redmond.
And I could have laughed at you because you're not going to run the ball like you did. You're not going to run the ball like you did in Washington. No, sir. Wow. So, Ezekiel Elliott. You are the quagmire of this draft, my friend, because you fall
Well
you couldn't have fallen forever. Forever, ever. Here's the thing, though. I did see some scouts say that Ezekiel is being targeted by Philadelphia.
Chance to really get in at goal.
Well, how could that possibly be true if Philadelphia is trying to go up to number 2? Come on, guys. Come on. Someone's not doing their homework at that point. Someone is making a statement purely just to make a statement about people wanting a player. How could he be the target of the Philadelphia Eagles and Philly also be interested in trade? I mean, I understand that, yes, Philadelphia has to do contingency plans if they can't pull off the trade to Cleveland. So, in a non-trade scenario, Ezekiel is an option to them. Okay, I get that. But they're pushing it as if there's a possibility that Ezekiel Elliott is the second overall pick in the draft. If that happens, oh man. Oh man.
I can see them making it 3 as well.
Wouldn't it be super interesting if the first 3 picks in the draft were all traded? The NFL has their way, their draft set up. The worst teams are at the bottom, and the 3 worst teams in the league, according to last year's stats, go, nope. We can find the talent we want elsewhere. And the teams that are better than them, according to last year's stats, say, oh yeah, no, there's definitely things in here. Doesn't that kind of speak to how the team that's bad got bad when they don't spot talent like that? Because I'm staring directly at Cleveland when I'm saying that. If Cleveland's considering getting out of that second overall pick, when they have what could be their next solidified left tackle, their next year starting right tackle, and the reason that they have success at quarterback in the fact that they've got their 2 tackles set up, like, they obviously were not prepared to win. You know, they brought an RG3 in as a stopgap, which is, you know, that's a possibility too. But man, okay, so let's do this again, I guess. Goff is number 1. They're not taking Wentz. In this scenario, it doesn't matter because it's neither one of the quarterbacks is going number 2. Unless that trade happens. Oh man, I hope that trade. I'll go check my phone right now. I'll stand back here. I want to see if maybe it broke. If Philadelphia ended up making the trade. Because if they did, then you know, you guys can ignore the last 2 hours of me talking, because Philly moving up switches quite a few different things. Wentz won't be there for San Fran. Tunson is there for San Diego. Ramsey is there for Dallas, which Ramsey's there for Dallas in this draft right now. But
I know it's your job to score goals, Alan, but what about the goalkeeper here stopping a goal?
Got to admire it. On his
actively okay, so here's the thing. I'm on NFL.com and I looked at it, and it says actively pursuing a trade. Cleveland is basically saying, please take this away from us. We don't know what to do with it. How are they expecting to get any value? Please take this pick away from us. Okay. We'll give you a 4th rounder for it. Well, no, you have to give us value. Well, no, I don't. Going to Cleveland and saying, hey, no, make the pick. If I was an NFL team right now, as part of like my,
that is a tackle and a half.
As part of my process, I'm considering everyone but Philadelphia apparently, because Philadelphia is. I don't understand. I don't get it. Sam Bradford's on the roster. When Sam Bradford's healthy, Sam Bradford is a good quarterback. Okay.
Oh, he's through.
Keep Sam Bradford healthy. The end. You know, It's ridiculous. Just keep the guy on the field. Get better blocking. He is glass. I understand he is a glass quarterback. I get that. The year he came out in the draft, I was all about him until the first freaking week I saw him play, and I understood he was glass. I get it.
45 minutes to go as we start the second.
But you can go get. There's so much other talent in this first round. You don't. I mean, you could present the same scenario to Philly. I'm gonna make the same argument. Here you go, Philly. Move up and take Tunson at 2. Jason Peters at left tackle, Tunson at right tackle for a couple of years. Present Sam Bradford with the best possible scenario you could to have him as your starting quarterback, and then if he fails, abandon Jason Peters, abandon Sam Bradford, move Tunson to left tackle, and move on with your life. Any team that has the opportunity to get Tunson, that is your scenario, unless you don't have a left tackle. Which, you know, there are obviously teams that don't have left tackles. The Lions are trying to contemplate if Riley Reef is a left tackle. I don't know. I think he's a left tackle in a system that runs the ball. And a team that's got to drop back so much now, probably not as good as a left tackle. But he's exposed more. It's exposure is a thing. Like that's, guys, that's huge in the NFL. You're exposing weaknesses of players. You know, it's why watching a player like J.J. Watt, who can do everything on the goddamn field, is so amazing. He's going to go chase down a running back. He's going to go get a sack on a quarterback. He's going to go bat a ball. He can go into coverage. He can go play tight end. He can go block. The guy can do freaking everything. But that's not every superstar on every team does that. You know, Blake Bortles cannot do that for Jacksonville. Not that they would let him, but he's not built like J.J. Watt to do that anyways. You know, I don't know. Russell Wilson's not doing that for Seattle. It's just there's superstars that can't even do that. So like, you know, but. Players aren't built like that, so you got to try to make the best scenario for every player possible. And in every scenario, except for teams that have solidified left and right tackles, Tunson is. I'm probably trying to talk myself out of the fact that Ramsey is not the best pick. He is still though, but Tunson is a very close second, if not tied, 1A, 1B in this scenario for me. And it's kind of a mockery of the draft system that we are talking about the 2 best players in the draft, and neither one of them can go first overall. There's no way either one of them will go first overall. I mean, at this point, we're talking as we've talked through the draft. There's a chance today he's not going to go second overall because Philly's not moving up for Tunson. They could. That would be a very good pick for them because, again, solidifies the offensive line, gives them a chance to tell their quarterback, hey, this is your best opportunity to persevere. But let's be honest, they're not moving up for an offensive tackle. They're not. It's sad. It really is, because prospects that are in the teens on my list. They're not even that high on my list. Are going to go 1 and 2 if they get a chance, and that's sad.
Because the pass was really a very thoughtful one.
Because the draft is to be able to draft, have an opportunity to draft the best player available. And actually draft the best player available. It's got to feel great. And there's going to be a recycling number of teams that are just never going to get that. Because, listen, Detroit's former general manager used to say that
One back very quickly.
their philosophy is best player available. Okay. Well, then, in your point, every year that we didn't make the playoffs, but we had you as our GM, or the year we made the playoffs and we had you as GM, our best player available were not good enough to get us a playoff win. The fuck are you trying to tell me, man? Come on. These drafts are deeper than 10, 12, 15 picks deep. I know that. How is it the best player available? That's sad. That hurts a lot. But yeah, Ezekiel Elliott kind of blew up my spot. Alpha Morris did it. I keep blaming Elliott because it's, you know, he's a draft prospect that I have lined up there, but it's the free agents that were picked by the team, and I obviously just ignored. I must have blanked out on Alfred Morris. He's a good back. Dallas should do fine with him in there. He could probably do what they need him to do. I'm wondering about his pass blocking. Are they going to have to pull him on third down? Because that would be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. In my head, in my world, Ezekiel Elliott was, if it wasn't Dallas, it was probably a while. And, well, it's not Dallas. Man, I guess you know, I got until Monday to get this draft locked down and figured out for like what I want to actually consider my final decision. I'm gonna do it. My final decision on Monday. That's barring that Philly doesn't make the move until Wednesday. But I'm gonna assume that they're gonna get, if they're the move's gonna be done, it's gonna be done before next week. Usually don't get talk like this without like results coming.
And Cooper.
Yeah. But there again,
Change of possession here.
I don't remember hearing this much about Tennessee getting rid of the pick. Well, I guess it did.
See a substitute coming
Tennessee
on.
did say that they wanted to get rid of it.
Here.
So, you know.
It's a
But
bad
yeah,
pass.
I'll have to modify it. I appreciate if anyone watches this and has any comments or any ideas,
When you think about
any
football as a
discussions they
passing
want to
game,
have
you
about
think
what
players like
I
him.
put where in the draft. More than willing to talk about it. Like I said, I
Cooper
feel like I put together a pretty sound
will
draft.
have a goal
You know,
kick. Angle on the goal here.
yeah, I don't know. I could just do the right thing and put Joey Bosa in Dallas, and then move Shaq Lawson up to Chicago, and then Dodds up
5
to,
more minutes here.
you know, and just keep moving defensive ends, and then bring another defensive into it.
Intercepting, if you like.
I guess I could go and,
Can go on
you
the
know,
attack, maybe.
be a fool and put another receiver in this first round, because with, you know, again, the value of 45 going into the first round that's less than 30, whoo, that makes a lot of sense, especially when you could have just traded out of the position, because teams are always trying to move in the draft, guys. Let's get that straight too. This year's just more fun because it's the first and second picks overall being talked about, but teams move every year. There's trades every year. I wanted to start putting drafts together now because when Monday comes around, I want to be able to try to see where those picks are going to be, so that I can, or those trades are going to be, so that I can be like, all right, well, this is where I predict this trade is going to be, and be one of the 6 or 7, like I said before, that I think are going to happen. Because one's already happened, so I'm already down 1. So I assume that it'll be 5 or 6 more first round trades. And
Very good.
it's
Intercepting
interesting
play
to see that
there
it's going to be
to get his positional
the early
situation
picks.
right and
'Cause-
win the ball without too much effort.
Well, it's not, because this is what it is. It's the first 5 picks of this round are
And in goes the cross.
these studs. that you're going to be able to play forever. And then you got to wait till the second round to get to the talent that makes sense at that pick again. But anyways, that's another game for me. I did it. I won it. I stayed in it the whole game. I was fatigued out of my mind, but I took 5 games today. I think. I got pulled from one of them. I might have lost that game. But I'm playing a lot more. I'm not coming out as much. Oh, transfer window. Oh, I guess we're gonna do the transfer window today.
Second, Celtic with 56 points, with a game in hand on the team above.
Now I was told
with 35 points.
that if I'm up for a transfer or to accept it, that'll be in my mailbox.
And then reading up the table,
so
County
after this, we'll check this.
Third bottom,
after this hour, we'll check this. No.
With a game in hand on the team above.
Kind of sad to say that I'm on loan from Southampton. I just looked up at the top of the screen. It says I'm on loan from Southampton. When does my loan end? Because I've played 21 games in Hamilton. And it just seems like, you know, at this point, training deadline's ended. Okay. Alright, well, I'll do this training. I'll do the training and the video. Again, anyone that watches this, I know that no one's going to, but that's alright. If anyone ever comes across this video and ever wants to talk about the 2016 NFL Draft, hit up my YouTube channel. We can talk about it. I'm also on Twitter as Awkward Runner. If anyone wants to get on there and debate me or discuss, I'll take either at this point for the draft. And like I said, I might be posting. I might post another video tomorrow with an updated draft. I may switch topics for tomorrow, but definitely expect Monday next week to be the my proposed final draft going into Thursday. Until then, guys, have fun. I hope you have a great day. Don't do drugs. Wow, you must appreciate seeing the save process at the end of this video too, huh? I could probably edit that out. Oh well.